KFM opens up a mental universe of possibilities as regards the development of our shadow fighting, but we must remember and continue to feed and stimulate the brain on a daily basis in order to break old and conditioned boundaries. Visualising in our mind how to fight with one person is difficult enough, but visualising fighting with more than one opponent is definitely stressful for the mind and not easy at all. It takes time and effort, and if we implement self-discipline and a little patience, many things will begin to take shape, and once this happens, nothing can change our way of understanding, and our physical expression will continue to evolve. And as we say each week, let's never forget that KFM was born in the street and was actually developed as a direct consequence of real experiences of multi-opponent situations. This week we present the Tornado Cuerpo. This motion is added to the Garamona and the Cancutoro. It's a sharp accelerating movement which aids in the destruction of stability within the opponent in this particular moment. And it's important to remember one thing: when we are developing new techniques, nothing is ever fixed or final. For example, we are showing the Tornado Cuerpo right now, but the Tornado also has many other applications in many other areas and attaches itself to many other weapons. So let's make sure we don't get lost in a fixed technical mindset or start technique debating. I can remember in the past when Husto and myself started to construct the KFM programme, we would often sit, on the beach obviously, and discuss about how and where to start the process. We very quickly realised that if we just started to log our journey through life and our study of the human, together with all of our personal experiences, the rest would drop into place, and it did. The Mono Escala is a piece of the programme that began its development 45 years ago when Husto was just 6 years old. The development of the Mono Escala is a direct consequence of real events and experiences, followed by subsequent years of investigation. As we all know, being on the ground in a real fight is definitely not a place to be. But on the flip side of the coin, trying to stand up in the middle of a fight is a lot easier said than done. Hence the Mono Escala is a really important part of our study and investigation within the KFM Urban X programme. A Roddy Picker is a weapon of multiple applications. It is very unpredictable in combat, thus making it a very interesting weapon to develop. Because like always, when we're developing a new subject matter, we isolate the movement. In this case, a simple attack aimed at the person on the ground. Hence we are only looking at one of the many dimensions and applications of the Roddy Picker in combat. We see Ambassador Greg showing a very simple example of the Roddy Picker and its basic application. As we constantly state, this is only the basic level, as this is the work that needs to be understood to achieve the white grade. The Roddy Picker is a simple direct attack, but as we will see in the later grades, has a very interesting twist to it. The exercises of development that make up the white grade are simple, but at the same time really cool. I like this kind of work, as it's a reflection of our many observations in the street and helps give a good level of application with not a lot of information, which is not usually the case. Hopefully you can see how it's still possible to train at a moderate level but still remain very intense. When we are learning anything new, it's in our interest to catch the work properly. Even if we think we've got it, the reality is many times we don't. Trying to run before we can walk has obvious consequences, and we all know this. I think we can all agree that this is a really cool exercise. By combining the tornado takedown with the Roddy picker and the simple punch, we start to provoke a little predatory attitude. And we will all feel how this kind of exercise instigates our emotional intensity. And by training on the concrete and not on the training mats, the guys learn to adapt to the environment very quickly, and they start to feel more at home on the concrete. To give the guys a real feel for what they are doing, we have weekly training sessions that are held late on the night. For example, we have one class that starts at 11 PM at the back of an old railway station. It's a very interesting place after midnight. But you start to get a real feel for the night and all the stresses that fighting in the dark starts to create. With the late night training classes, many emotional subjects are touched upon, as well as the physical training. One thing that we have found is that by training in this way, the students start to resolve many of the questions themselves. For example, how many times do we hear things like, "Yeah, but what if?" There is a simple answer to that question, and it's called training. Night training also answers a lot of simple yet profound questions. If we train in a chaotic situation in the dark, we will answer so many questions for ourselves. We won't actually need to seek the words of others. We will appreciate how the dark confuses everything, how it distorts our senses, how in a training environment everything seems so obvious or easy. But when we move everything into its relative arena, how that arena starts to answer all the questions that we have. In these videos we show the work in a development format so that we can all learn properly. What we all need to make sure of is that we never lose sight of the objective. And if that objective is to understand the application in the street, then obviously we need to train in the street on a regular basis. If you haven't done so already, take this drill out into the street one night and have a play. We will immediately feel several instinctive things happen, and if we listen to our instinct, then we will learn so much very quickly. When we have a class of 30 students all training this work outside on a night, it looks and sounds very real. One conclusion that everybody arrives at is that it's very difficult to apply even the simplest of things. This keeps everything and everybody in a balance with reality. When we really appreciate that it's difficult, then we are getting in touch with our own truth. And when we do that, we start to search in all the right places. Trying to operate and apply our work within a stressful environment is extremely difficult. We like to call it sink or swim process. Basically meaning that we need to have an answer there and then. If not, we drown. We don't have time to think, only respond. And if we struggle to respond, then it probably means that we don't have the work down as well as we first thought. And the way to resolve this problem is what? Training, training, training. look how by training in the street every day that the students are a lot more comfortable with training on the concrete. And as with everything in life, the more we do a thing, generally the better we get. The concluding exercise in today's class sees the predator in the middle starting to play in several different areas of combat. Greg is being attacked, then taken to the ground, where he needs to find his way back to his feet as fast as possible and keep on attacking. Although this is a relatively basic training exercise, it incorporates many of the different emotions that are always present within a self-defense situation. Greg needs to deal with attacks, takedowns, landing on concrete, finding his way back to his feet, and continue to make a return attack. So as we can see, there's actually quite a lot going on, and in the end, it's not just some simple white grade stuff, it's actually the foundation to all of our future training.